Start with you, Rosemary. I think all of us in this room can point back to, we all call the ALF Fellows experience, the year that we spent becoming fellows, as transformative. We saw it in the video, we saw it in the testimonies we've just heard. I want you to take us back to your year, your fellowship, and tell us about one moment, one story that crystallizes how the program was life-changing for you.
So, I think that it's really appropriate that what was shown today was the wilderness, because, I worked a lot with the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts. I've gone backpacking and trail, I'm good on trails. And this was totally, and I was just surprised at, just leaving all the technology, leaving everything behind, and just really having quality time with all the people that you're with. That wilderness experience taught me, not to prejudge. So when we talk about having time for dialogue, it's something that I think that is critically important. And it taught me that, I can't be as judgy. I think that sometimes it took me a while to recognize that, in fact, I need to pause. I need to allow to have that learning. And it was great. It was really, really great. So it's very appropriate that the wilderness came up today.
Thank you. Ellen, we're very clear in our mission, as David stated earlier, about the need to strengthen diverse leaders to serve the common good. You and your mother embody that mission through your commitment to public service. How has being part of ALF Silicon Valley helped you be a better leader?
Well, I think what I lamented in participating in the class has been the thing that the question I ask myself all the time, which is, are you all in? And having to go for every session, I know what sounds like one class is halfway through, having to ask myself that, especially in the times that we're living in right now, was, I think, such a good centering point in my public service journey. I feel like fortunate that growing up, I was taken to fundraisers, events, conventions by my mother, because her 3 decades of public service just instilled in me about getting involved. And I think that is another nugget that ALF asks is, what will you do to make your community better? How might you partner? And so in my ALF journey, I feel very fortunate that because I'm asked now to talk about leadership, and I see our assembly member, I have to give him a shout out, Assemblymember Mark Berman in the back. Thank you for having us in your district, sir. But it's just so interesting how interconnected we are, because my mother and the assembly member had an overlap working in the nonprofit, and then I served as his district director. And so the ways that you can ask yourself what your public service journey can be is something that I feel very fortunate that I've had the experience with ALF.
You're part of a very rarefied group, multi-generational ALF family. How has that influenced and seasoned your experience of ALF Silicon Valley?
I would say that it really has amplified our work. For some reason, when I was growing up, I didn't know that every time my mother would take me to church and we would volunteer, I thought everybody did that, right? And so I followed suit, and Ellen and her brother always went to different events, and that is what we thought was the way to be. And so I think that having the connections that we've made through ALF has been tremendous. And I just think, it has really made connecting, whether it's with the private sector, the public sector, the nonprofit sector, the community itself, much more richer.
Ellen, I'd like to hear from you. You both remained involved after, as senior fellows. Why? And what are some of the unique ways that you stay in touch with your class?
Well, I have some classmates in the audience. Class 43. And I was so thrilled we're going to have class members on the board. And having just completed my experience 2 years ago, my experience is quite fresh. So my mother, I think hers was a decade ago. And my dad was class 4. So not only are we multi-generational, I am like an ALF baby because my dad did it, my mom did it, and now myself. But I think that we stay active in terms of we have our class ambassador who I see in this room. We're engaged in the board. We have a WhatsApp. I think what's also really great and is a unique part of the ALF ecosystem is how we have been able to pipeline each other into other opportunities of service. And I just always feel like it's important to give a shout out to Dave Bulbuck, who is in the audience. He termed off of the Second Harvest Silicon Valley board, including his term as president of that board, and knows that Second Harvest has quite a presence in Mountain View and pipeline me onto that board. But I'm not the only example of that. We have many people in our class who is doing that. And what a great way to populate kind of the ALF public servant leadership into other positions. And then I see that happening on the corporate side as well. So it's that's how we're able to stay in touch. And I think keep the message of ALF going. That's what's so important. I think people need inspiration and some light in these times.
You've both been committed to, well, this is a room full of people who are committed to investing in ALF. Why do you support ALF, be it with your time, treasure, or talent?
So, one of the things that I have learned about ALF and just having the connections of ALF is that ALF is tremendously powerful in the way in which you create positive outcomes for the community. And together, I know it sounds a little bit, stronger together, but in moments of distress, and right now we're living in a time where we need to pull together. We need to be one in terms of being able to create those positive outcomes for our community. And everyone who has been involved in ALF that I have ever known has been ready to, be the upstanders that we need, especially in this time.
In the last 2 minutes, we're at this inflection point with ALF. We're about to choose a new CEO, a bunch of new board members. Ellen, what's your hope for what this next chapter for ALF will hold, and your advice to the board members who are in the room?
I think as we're looking forward, I've thought about this quite a bit. The silence that we're experiencing is deafening. And we need a CEO, we need leadership, we need ALF to stand for courage. And I think being in this room with all of you in community shows me that we are not alone, and that new ALF leader, there's like ALF, ALF, it depends, I guess, your year, leader will take a stand, because I think that what the wilderness, not to go back to wilderness too much, but what wilderness shows is there isn't the loneliness that we think that we have. And I think COVID taught us that as well, that these journeys are with others, whether they're in front, next to you, behind, all as a supportive network. And I hope that as we go forward, our new CEO will do that.
Rosemary and Ellen, thank you so much for your service to our community and your service to ALF Silicon Valley.